He stood barefoot on the mat, shoulders relaxed, eyes steady, as the billionaire's voice cut through the room. "Let's see if the hero can still fight," the man said, smiling, though his words dripped with something colder than challenge. The crowd chuckled softly, unsure if they were laughing with him or at the man in front of them. Mark Thompson didn't answer. He simply tightened the wrap around his hands and breathed in slow, deep rhythms. His body carried old scars. A long line across his ribs from shrapnel, a stiff left knee from a night that still replayed in his dreams. His silence wasn't weakness. It was discipline. Only minutes earlier, Mark had been here for his son. The boy had been begging to watch a live martial arts demo at the billionaire's new sports complex. But then, without warning, the man hosting the event, a black belt, a business magnate, a celebrity in this city, had singled him out in front of the crowd. The cameras were already rolling. The billionaire wanted to prove a point that Mark's quiet presence made it easy for people to underestimate him. At first glance, he was just a tired single father in a worn jacket and faded jeans. But behind that calm stare lived years of service. Years where he had fought in places the man before him had only ever seen on TV. He had once led a squad through the dust and chaos of far-off streets, where the air smelled of burning fuel and sand clung to everything. He had carried friends who would never see home again. He had stood at gravesides with medals in his pocket and tears he never let fall. And when his wife passed unexpectedly, leaving him with a 6-year-old boy, he learned a new kind of battle, one fought in silence, every day, for his child's future. Now, here in this brightly lit gym, another fight loomed. Not one for survival, but for dignity. The billionaire grinned, bowing theatrically, his expensive silk GI gleaming under the lights. "Come on, soldier," he said. "Show us what you've got." The crowd leaned in. Some whispered. Others pulled out their phones. Mark remained still. In his mind, he heard an old saying from a comrade long gone. "You don't prove yourself to people who haven't earned the right to see your strength." But then he saw his son's face in the crowd, a mix of pride and worry. And something shifted. Mark stepped forward, not with aggression, but with the quiet authority of someone who had already faced far worse. His stance was relaxed, almost humble. The billionaire, mistaking it for weakness, moved fast. The first strike came quick, a sharp kick aimed at Mark's side. Without effort, Mark pivoted, guiding the man's leg past him as if redirecting a child. Another strike followed, and again Mark flowed around it. His movements clean, economical, controlled. Gasps rose from the onlookers. Then, with one subtle motion, Mark caught the billionaire's arm in mid-strike. There was no brute force, just perfect timing. A gentle twist, a step forward, and the man who had invited this match was suddenly on the mat, staring up at the ceiling, unable to move. Mark released him instantly and stepped back. He offered no words, no gesture of triumph. His silence was the lesson. The room fell utterly still. Then, one by one, people began to stand. No clapping, no cheers, just silent respect. Even the billionaire rose slowly, rubbing his arm, his face pale. Mark finally spoke, his voice calm, steady. "Respect is never about who's stronger," he said. "It's about who stands without needing to prove it." It was the kind of line that would echo long after the video went viral. His son's smile told him the only approval he ever needed was right there. Some battles are won in noise. The most important ones are won in silence. And sometimes, the quietest warrior leaves the loudest mark. That if this story reached you, share it so others can feel the weight of true respect. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from and what silent battles you've seen won. And if you believe more people need to hear stories like Mark's, join us here. Subscribe and stand with us for the heroes who don't ask for applause, but deserve it more than anyone.